Alright, welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, classic, lesser known classics. This is episode number 3204, Doubleshot 3098. Now, I need to make one small correction here. It's about person's name, per se. The correction to me is the woman who Jonah X was with in the All-Star Western book. Her name is Talila Black. Yes, apparently she is a character who is a creation of Humanity and Justin Gray. Basically, they brought her in the continuity because she's commonly associated with Hex. So, why not? And she just has scars on her face, not her back. I remember seeing scars on her back in the All-Star Western book. I remember that. She popped up in Volume 2 of Jonah Hex. That was when she first showed up. So, I was up to correct about Megan Fox, but it's like, oh, Megan Fox did not want her face scar because her face is too pretty. And I'm like, Hex is probably like, don't give a damn about that. Alright, so, this here is about the early years of Jonah Hex. Plus, of course, it also contains another story here from Outlaw. It contains stories from All-Star Western 2 through 12 and Weird Western Tales 13, 14, 16 through 33. Now, of course, the opening story here is the debut of Jonah Hex, Walking in Paradise. Yeah, these issues were published period of February to March of 1972, and the last Hex story was released in March-April of 1976. Outlaw was basically from October and November of 1970, and basically include August, September of 1971. That was Bone's story. So, by the way, Neil Adams did the cover story for All-Star Western, issues 2 through 8. No, he did basically 2 through 5. Gary Morrow did issue number 6. 7 is Tony DeZiga, who's basically the interior artist, who did basically 7, 8, 9. They don't credit the cover artist, just Night of the Snake from issue 7. Written by Gail Kane, Denny O'Neil. Artwork by Gail Kane, Tony DeZiga. Mostly put, the writer is basically John Albano, who pretty much writes most of the stories there, except for, like, he does pretty much the start of it for the first 3 stories. Tony DeZiga definitely is the definitive artist for All-Star Western 10 through 12. Weird Western Tales 13, 14, 16 through... When did the artwork change here? Okay, the artwork changed with issue 24. He did issue 23. And did he come back to the book per se? No. No, he did not. The other artists were Juan Luis Garcia-Lopez, who I met, really cool guy in person. He did issues 32, 33. Michael Fisher pretty much took over the writing duties. Now, John Albano did the first 3 issues. He did issue 13. 13? No, he did for quite a while. He did it up until Weird West Tales 21. Michael Fisher pretty much took over from that point forward. The artwork for issue cover 33 is done by Joe Kubert. Noli Pelaga did issue 25, Weird Western Tales. Doug Wildey did issue 26. Nelly Philly did 27. George Malone did issue number 28. He also did 30 and 31. Now, these are the stories. This one we have: Walking in Paradise, the $100 deal, Promise to a Princess, A Killer's Last Wish, Killers Die Alone, Grasshopper Courage, The Hanging Woman, The Hoax, Demon on My Trail, Blood Brothers. This is basically an Indian story. The Gunfighter, Showdown Hard Times, The Point Paris Massacre, The Point Price Aftermath. The Showdown with the Dangling Man. A little fun fact with 23, that's basically pictured the painting of debut of Jeb Turnbull. He does make a physical appearance in issue 29. And there's a reason for that. So, 26 is Face Up with the Gallagher Boys. 27 is Meadow in the Spring Crusade. 28 is State Who's Living. Breakout Force Charlotte. This is also the debut of Jonah Hex's long-time art nemesis, Quentin Turbo. Which, he later dies in the next story, but he comes back 2 years later in Jonah Hex's solo title. There's a gunfight at Wolverine. Yes, that's their title. Bigfoot's War. This was an Native American story where Jonah Hex took a Native American in order to get back a kidnapped woman. Day of the Tomahawk. I believe this was the debut of a character named Tomahawk. Oh, it's... So, at one point this book did have a feature in here. Yeah, it was like Batlash, Powwow Smith, several different characters. Yeah, the book basically was originally called All-Star Western. The title was changed with issue number 12. So, basically, this book just collects just Jonah Hex stuff. It does not collect their stories. Like, there's also one for El Diablo, Batlash, Powell Smith. That's issue 12. 13 is just El Diablo, the backup feature. 14, there's a story there for a couple other stories. I think it just, let's see. No, they don't collect the other 2 stories in here for Hex. 15 does not feature Hex at all. It is mostly put El Diablo story. Yeah. Yeah. So, why was featured 15 and 16? 16, yes, but he was the lead story. It was El Diablo who took over briefly the title. He was simply put the backup feature. But then he took over back a lead feature issue 17. It was there for a while. Basically, some of their stories just regular Western stories. I'm surprised DC has not bothered to collect some of this stuff already. Yes. 18, of course, is basically full-fledged Jonah Hex stuff. Yeah, they stopped doing the features with this one. Well, then nobody can reach that one. But 19, there's an El Diablo one. For 21, which also to cover this book. This one particularly, just has a standalone backup story, which is not in here. It just collects. Now, by the way, 20 is done by Arnold Drake. You think, wait, Arnold Drake, the guy who created Doom Patrol? Yeah, he wrote a story for Jonah Hex. 21 is a full Jonah Hex story. 22, Jonah Hex. 23, Jonah Hex. 24 is definitely Jonah Hex. 25 is definitely Jonah Hex. So anyway, I'm thinking, is the one that basically is not featured on Hex as the lead character? Well, I better find that and see. It seems that now there's no backup feature. It's all Hex. You would think, is there some point where they, is there, no feature in this book? Well, we finally didn't have in our backup feature issue 32. Yes, after, get this, the last issue to feature a backup story was issue number 20. Yep. It took the book another year before we had their backup feature book. This time being El Diablo. 33 is a full-fledged Jonah Hex story. Yep. But this book is pretty good. I actually really enjoy this. And here's a bit of a shocker. There is actually, I kid you not, there's only one more Showcase Presents Jonah Hex story left. You're like, really? Only one left? Yeah, DC released 2. Now, those that be curious about the All-Star Western stuff. Now, believe it or not, when it comes to All-Star Western, this is kind of interesting with this one. Because the title was initially put a continuation of All-Star Comics until it was relaunched. Yes, it was in fact relaunched. So mostly put, for the Outlaw story, it's the opening story of issue number 2. Yeah, mostly put, Outlaw is just, his real name is Rick Wilson. You might be thinking, Wilson? Is it related to Slade Wilson? I don't know. The Marvel but never really delved into the fact that possibly Deathstroke and Terminator might be related to a Western character. I highly doubt, basically, just by sheer coincidence. Yeah, Robert Kanigher basically did some of these art. You think, wait, Robert Kanigher, a guy known for writing a lot of war comics, like Sergeant Rock and Unknown Soldier. Yep, he did Outlaw, who did basically issues 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, by the way, it's just the opening story. It's not the backup story. Yeah, they've included a Billy the Kid story in here. Yeah, Billy the Kid. Some of you probably are wondering, like, you think, wait, they include Billy the Kid in here? So, Billy the Kid. Who is Billy the Kid? Billy the Kid was a gunslinger from the 1880s who died at the age of 21 being shot by a U.S. Marshal named Patrick. I don't remember his last name. Apparently shot him in some house. Yeah. It was basically like no witnesses per se, but the guy Patrick claimed to kill Bill the Kid. There was at one point I heard a story where there was this old man in the 70s who claimed to be, like, I think it was like 6 or 7, what decade it was, documentary, where a guy claimed to be Bill the Kid, where apparently it showed all the famous gunshot wounds that Bill the Kid had, and he was basically the governor, I think it was New Mexico, I think it was, will issue a pardon, but apparently the governor didn't buy it, so he basically deemed the man crazy and just basically shoved to his side. As was a proof this guy was Bill the Kid, man, so basically being shot, I think the story goes, he got shot by this guy Patrick, but we're not really sure. Yeah, the guy's been dead for decades. The guy's been dead for almost 200 years. Yeah. Except this Billy Kid was a woman. Yeah. Yeah. And no outlaw in that one. Nope. And then basically, I think like Billy Kid took over the outlaw story. When issue 7 called Bullet for a Gambler. Yeah. It's like Billy Kid took over that story. There's also other stuff with like David Crockett and more El Diablo. So I kind of wish DC would basically do more. 8 basically has Scavenger, but they also featured in here a story from issue 7 of the book. Yeah, 7, which was Night of the Snake. And this was All-Star West number 7. Let's see, Night of the Snake. That's what it says. You're probably thinking, what in the world was this? Like, they have Bullet for a Gambler. That's also issue 7, but where's this Bullet for a Snake? Let's take a look here with that one. Let's see, 520. Maybe a post story. Buck Lipson? It said it's from issue 7, but I'm not seeing it there. On issue 8. Not sure where the story came from, but it's not listed anywhere. Okay, so Night of the Snake actually came from issue 6, not issue 7. I think there was a typo there. Yeah, a typo in the part of the book. Yeah. So, in the case of issue 6, cover 2 stories. There's also Wild Bill Hickok. Yeah, he's a guy who runs his own Western show. Yeah. In the case of this book overall, it's really good. But there's some stories in here. Now, like I said, there's one more volume left to go for that one. Yep. And that book basically just has a few more issues of Weird Western Tales before it moves on to Jonah Hex's solo title. Like, if you're curious, what was the first issue appearance of Jonah Hex? It was issue 10 of All-Star Western Volume 2. That was the first time. And believe it or not, the only thing collected from this era is, I kid you not, so DC Comics decided to do a Showcase Presents Batlash. Yes. They did a book called this. And it is a very short book. Like, for a Showcase book, it is thinner than this. Yes. Because this book by far is the shortest one to date. It contains just one issue Showcase, the entire 7 issues of Batlash. There's 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, there's only like 11 comics in this thing. And it's really short. It is, like I said, by far the shortest Showcase book I've ever seen. I read it years ago, but I'll probably review it at some point. Give the book roughly a 9 out of 10. Next up we have is Ultimate Spider-Man, Volume 18, Ultimate Knights. Yes, this is basically Bendis' take on the Marvel Knights group that was created by Chuck Dixon. He basically brought him to this continuity, except this group never called himself Ultimate Knights. It was just basically, like in the case of the main continuity, Daredevil's unnamed superhero team. Though in the case of the 616 version was meant to find the Punisher, this one was formed to take down the Kingpin. And this mostly rid out a lot of characters in this book. So, this book will also feature, sadly, Mark Bagley's last issue he would do for the book, issue 110. Yes, ending basically a long streak for Mark Bagley. I think this was basically his last issue. So it was 111. Yeah, 111 was his last issue. This book had collected issues 106 to 110. It's roughly put a 5-part story. Yes. This first issue had the first appearance of the Ultimate version of Jessica Jones. A character who didn't do a lot in the Ultimate Universe. Like, she appears in these issues here, appears for the third annual for Ultimate Spider-Man, appears next line for Ultimate Spider-Man, and that's been it for her. Yeah, my guess is the reason why Bendis included her was probably because he created her, so that's probably the reason for that. Also, they have in these issues where those will follow up what happened in the previous issue, previous storyline where Aunt May is in the hospital, and so, by the way, no Gwen here. They do sort out the whole thing with Aunt May and Peter at the end of the book. They do sort that out, no problem. But this seems like a storyline that was built up for quite a while in the book, because of course this does end up basically wrapping up a long-running plot thread basically in this book, that being the Kingpin. We'll get back to that. So basically, this book also had a debut of the Rose, or excuse me, Mr. Rose. Yeah. Now, this book also features Shang-Chi in his weird costume. But here's the thing. Not the first appearance of Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi actually made his first appearance in the penultimate issue of Ultimate Team-Up. Actually appeared in like the last couple issues. Yeah, last two issues of the book. Now, weird enough, after this two-parter, Shang-Chi was never seen in the Ultimate Universe ever again, until he popped up in Ultimate Spider number 81. Yes, that was the next time he would appear. Which also had the first appearance of, well, an early appearance of course, he also featured Danny Rand appearing in this book too. He actually made first appearance as Iron Fist in the storyline, which I haven't discussed it yet, but yeah. And by the way, is his father still Fu Manchu like in the main universe? Yes, except he actually was Fu Manchu, except he just mostly just mentioned, not actually seen per se. Yeah, so try to take him out, but heck, he's even a character named Russ Audru. Yes, who's the principal, who is obviously named after a real life person. Yes, who is Russ Audru, you might ask? Russ Audru was an old school comic artist, which basically his first comic being a book called Marvel Tales 103. He did a lot of like sci-fi western books. He's a legendary artist. I've never reviewed some of his work. He even does work for Spider-Man for a long time. Last book he ever did before he passed, that was released by him, was Spider-Man Fear Itself. Was the first appearance of Baroness Zemo. Yep. Who is the wife of basically the modern Baron Zemo. Nice for Bendis basically to create a character who is named after probably did a lot of respect for him. Now, part of this story, the guy had not been seen since issue 88. This will be his final appearance in the book, issue 106. He made his debut in issue 1. He also appeared in issue 17, 87, 88, and appeared in this issue. That was the last we ever saw of him. Yeah, and then of course, like, so basically, Daredevil just happens to find. Also Kitty Pryde transfers to Midtown High for reasons. Also, her relationship with Peter is ended, completely ended. Like, they're like, okay, we parted ways. So, Matt Murdock just happens to find him there because Spider-Man somehow goes to school. And thanks to his voice, like, oh, you're Daredevil. Because these two actually met over in Ultimate X-Men. So, meet me at this church, 8 o'clock at night. And then we're introduced to Doctor Strange, Iron Fist, Moon Knight, and Shang-Chi. The Knights. By the way, the team itself, never named in the book. Nope. Never did. Doctor Strange, did they mention he was like a TV show host per se? Yeah, in case you're wondering, was there a regular Stephen Strange? Yeah, this one basically is Doctor Strange Jr. He got killed in Ultimatum by having his head bitten off by Dormammu. Yes. Now, those of you curious, when did Mark Spector start appearing in the book? Moon Knight first appeared in the book issue 79. He actually became a different character in this book. Daredevil actually made his debut in Ultimate Marvel Team-Up number 7. That was simply basically his first appearance. Yeah, Bendis brought him into this universe probably because basically he was writing the book at the time. So the team comes together to... And then Mark Spector becomes Ronin for the first time. Yes, Ronin. You know, in the 616 universe where it's worn by oh my gosh, like 3 different people in the main universe. First it was Echo, and then it was Hawkeye, and then it was the original Guardian. Yep. So basically, yeah, gotta kill the Kingpin. So, also it's shown that Danny Rand, aka Iron Fist, is working for the Kingpin. And the reason? He threatened his daughter. You're like, what? Seriously? Excuse me. Yeah. Yeah, somehow him and I kid you not, basically a girl named Colleen. So, are we assuming in this universe him and Colleen Wing actually had an actual relationship and had a daughter together? Because in 616, it was implied these two were a couple, but it never went anywhere at all. And then they were hooked up with Midnight for years. Yeah. So, yeah, and of course, Knights beat up Danny Rand because he found a Kingpin. Somehow, his goons found out his daughter at daycare. Now, if you're really curious, is Danny Rand in this universe, is he rich like he is in 616? If you're really curious, like, there is no mention of him being rich in this universe. Not really. Also, Peter goes back to Daily Bugle after a while, of course, saying he's fired, but because in hospital he gets unfired. And it's like, can I get raised in more hours? Kill weekends? Sure. No problem. Yep. So then, of course, basically build to, yeah, let's go fight the Kingpin. And then we have, get this. So, basically, like, Daredevil really wants to kill. Like, one point, like, you have Doctor Strange. Seems like he's about to sleep with some woman. So, and then we see Ultimate version of Wong, basically, like, excuse me, Doctor. Yeah, you can say that for later. I'm sure this will basically be happy to see you later. But, you have a call. And he's like, damn it, Daredevil! Kids, do not ask what this means. Basically, Daredevil's a cock blocker. Yes. I'm not kidding about that, okay? Adults understand probably what I'm saying. Kids, do not ask until you're older what the heck I'm saying about that. Moving on. It's like, I don't feel comfortable doing this at all. Probably because basically interrupting when he's about to do something with the woman. Consensual, of course. He was trying to rape her. So, then eventually he does track the Kingpin, which Kingpin apparently tracks on Spider-Man, which he does know his face, but not know his name. Yes. This happened early on in the series, where Kingpin did this. Never found his name, but he does know his face. In case you're curious, though, you're probably thinking, wasn't at some point Kingpin found out Peter Parker was Spider-Man? No. No, he did not. The only known superhero who he had a very bad relationship with, he actually found out about who is under the mask, was Daredevil. And that led to the Critical Acclaim Born Again storyline. Also, apparently Spider-Man's got action figures now in this universe. Yes, because he's that popular. Also, readership is down. Of course, Ben York is blamed for it, but yeah. Oh yeah, and also the fact his house was attacked by no one else. What's happened in the previous storyline, which I probably discussed at some point. I probably should discuss it. Something I missed. So, Then Daredevil breaks into Fisk's bedroom and basically holds his comatose wife hostage. Also, his men proceed to get beats up Ronan, who actually was Moon Knight, who managed to survive, go to the police department and tell them, "Oh yeah, my name is Stephen Grant, also more expected Moon Knight. The kingpin of crime, Wilson Fisk tried to murder me. And given how he was bruised, yeah, they immediately bought it." Yep. So, Kingpin was on to live. And then, of course, police like, "You Wilson Fisk?" "Yes." "You're under arrest." "For what?" "They attempted murder Moon Knight." He's like, "Who's that?" Like, and then eventually like, "Oh crap, he's alive." Yes, seriously, he says that. And then he's arrested in this spot. Basically, it's his downfall. Yeah, this basically wraps the whole storyline with him. Now, the thing is, this would be Kingpin's exit from the book. Oh, yes, his exit. And if you're really curious, like, how long does it take for him to return? This happens in 2007, mind you. When he returned, in the opening issue of Ultra Comics Spider-Man, it was 2 years later. Yep, my guess is that the reason why that they decided to do this was because basically Bendis probably had no other plans for him, so let's just do something else with it. But it did wrap up a long-running storyline in Spider-Man. Yes, on and off mostly, but in 2009, this basically was like a top high peak for Bendis. This book. Oh yeah, definitely. Like, in 111, mostly put just an aftermath story of the whole thing. Yeah, they also gave this character called Frank Quid. He just original characters universe. If you're really curious, yeah, he's original, but he basically took over Gene DeWolf. But happened because of. But the book also debuted the character of the Spot, the ultimate version, who only appeared once. Yes, and never again. Yeah. Yeah. The thing with the Spot is he is a Spider-Man villain, but he's a joke villain. Made his debut in Peter Parker's Spoken Spider-Man number 94 in 1984, became the Spot in issue 98. Yeah, he is relatively like a C-list Spider-Man villain who still occasionally appears over the years. Like at one point, this guy became a recurring villain for Daredevil. Yes, the Spot. Yes, there was a very brief period of time where he became a Daredevil villain. If you're really curious, what's the most recent comic featuring him that was actually published? Vengeance Moon Knight number 9. Yep, that was in fact the last time he was seen, which came out about a year ago. Yep. Oh, also this book started off though. This is interesting. They showed off basically the Wrecking Crew, who actually are a division of damage control. Yeah, and this will be only their second ever appearance in the comics. They appeared like 2 other times after this. They debuted back in issue 86. But like, you think with these issues, like, man, I should probably review that stuff. Probably should. There's stuff I basically I've missed, but I probably should review it soon. Yep. What do I give Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate Knights a 10 out of 10. Book was actually really good. Yes, is sad though Bagley had to leave the book after 111 straight issues, which basically when issue 101, this broke a record. Yes, a record. I forgot to mention this in my last video when it comes to this. So, yeah, when Ultimate Spider-Man hit issue 101 of this very book, basically that meant that it broke the record set by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Yep. You think he really took it to the Clone Saga, basically, if this happened? Yes. Yes, it did. As for the reason for this, no idea. But not really much to say with these two books. They're both really good. Okay, so that's pretty much a particular view. Please be sure to comment, subscribe, turn notifications. I will see you all tomorrow, because tomorrow I actually have a day off, so I've got about 6 anime to go through. Hopefully, we'll go through no problem, and more Comrade Reiki. Okay, thanks to you. Bye.